In a world of mirrors, there's no mirror that reflects so poorly on its owners than the one that shows Utena, Mikage, and Akio himself, all on the same glass surface. Tied together through their despair, their one commonality is the thing that defines their entire worldview, at least at the start. It's that they cannot imagine a future worth living in. That is the despair that defines their existence. Likewise, Nanami and Anthy stare at each other through a reflection so crystal clear that it could be mistaken for a mere shadow. There is the past, there is the future. Oh, but I can feel smug, for Toga is not half the man Dios was. Oh, but you can feel pride that he'll never be the man that Akio is. But you can't feel any pride at all in any of that. Anthy's self-hatred is to the point that she hates Nanami by proxy. Nanami's insecurity is what forces her to lash out at Anthy in the first place. The deep knowledge she has that Toga is looking for something else, and that she is a bit player in his revolution. When talking about Mikage, Ikuhara said, "Since he's like Utena, shouldn't his ending be as cruel as Utena's?" That's what I think about when I see Nanami. If all Nanami ever wanted was, for just one moment, to have been someone who was chosen above all others, more special to Toga than all others, then that means that in the end, she is faced with two facts. One, Toga will never choose her above all others. Two, she doesn't want him to. She doesn't want that kind of love from him. Doesn't everyone want to be chosen? There is a portrayal of Toga and Seonji fighting over Utena's coffin as two boys fighting over a toy. The toy isn't important. It could be anything. The only important thing is that only one of them can have it. Then neither of them can have it. An adult comes and takes it away from them. "That's not for you," he says. "Come back and get it when you can reach the top shelf." The idea of being fought over, chosen, is integral to Utena. It is the essence of the duels, literally fighting over the Rose Bride. So the issue comes from the fact that everyone wants to be chosen. The duelists themselves want to be chosen. They want to be special, to be the best. They were, literally, chosen by the end of the world. Anthy is initially, perhaps, the most disdainful of all the cast towards this kind of belief. What's the use of being chosen by others? It's worthless. It's done her no good, even as she engineers it. Being seen as special by people who can only see their own illusions is no kind of prize at all. So the agony only truly begins after she has her first realization. She wants Utena to choose her. But hasn't Utena already chosen her? Every duel, Utena goes there for no reason except because she wants to defend Anthy from the other duelists. Stopping someone else from having something is not the same as wanting it, though. For the third to last episode of the series, the Shadow Girls are both looking to become actresses. There's only one spot open in the movie, though, and one girl is already on the casting couch. It's a double question. Don't you want the role? Don't you wish you were me, who already has an in? He already chose me. Are you still gonna fight for it? Everyone in the world is replaceable except for me. Unless... Mikage's shadow girls show him as a father, reading the paper while his son prepares for an elementary school test. "Let me put on that backpack," he says. "Let me take that test. Let me remain in the world that was easy to live in. I don't want to exist here in this outside world. There is the liminal world above and the hellish world beneath, and I want none of it. Send me back to the world that I grew up in." He doesn't realize that understanding one lie means never being able to stand on solid ground again. If the reality of Otori is false, how can he live there? He'll fall through the floor he attempts to stand on. He'll starve on the food provided, as the world itself rejects his knowledge. Not all graduations are happy affairs. Let's keep looking through that mirror. The swords of hatred swarm into a raging, spiky mass of destruction, purely pointed at Utena's open back. She's weeping, apologizing to Anthe for everything, for failing her. But she never bothers to look at the swords. The swords that Akio was so afraid of, the weight of the hatred of society, of the entire world. What can that pain compare to Anthe's? Ikuhara once said that Utena was someone he aspired to be, while Anthe was the reality of the world. In other interviews, though, he said that Utena and Anthe were intended to be one character originally, and then later became separate. And in yet another, he said that every character in Revolutionary Girl Utena carries a piece of him within them. In episode 3, the student council members sit around a table playing Old Maid. The goal of Old Maid is to pair every card in your hand, each person attempting to maintain a blank facade so they can exit the game first, until eventually the last two players become more and more desperate as they reach the finale. A choice between two cards. One card matches the one in your hand, and it will free you from the game. The other card is the Old Maid. Draw it, and now it's the other player's turn to make that fated choice. An endless loop until you finally draw the right one, and the one holding the Old Maid loses, stuck without a pair. When I was taught to play it, the card that could not be paired was a joker. It's just as common, however, to remove 3 queens from a 52-card deck until only one remains and say, "That's her. That's the one that will always be alone." The point of Old Maid isn't to choose a winner, but one single loser. It's a game like that. So, which one of them is the loser? Again? Which one of them was chosen? The Cantarella poison that Anthe claims was in the cookies is a reference to the mysterious poison thought to have been used by Lucrezia Borgia, an Italian noblewoman whose 3 marriages, the first when she was 14 years old, were haunted by rumors of her misdeeds, even as they were motivated by her family's desire for more power. Someone who was willing to sacrifice her body for her family, Ikuhara says. Someone who thought they were sacrificing everything for love, only to discover that there is no limit to the sacrifice. She was said to have poisoned the drinks through the use of a hollow ring. When I was attending high school, a friend of mine went to such and such, a school famous for its suicide rates. It was a common talking point among people my age. Oh, they go there. The suicide school? Why? Well, because their parents wanted them to succeed in life. It's the best school in the area, after all. It seemed like a dream, so I asked my sister about it years later, and she remembered it just as I did. Oh, such and such? The suicide school? But it was all in the past. Surely it would have changed since then, I thought. There are young children walking down the street. They're middle school age, Utena's age. A friend of mine is going to such and such, one of them says. Oh, the other one says. The suicide school? They've got posters up everywhere, the first one says. Seek help before it's too late. What a coincidence, Utena says. I put poison in your tea as well. Revolutionary Girl Utena has an extremely limited cast of adult characters. There is the teacher who berates Utena for her dress code, the music teacher who gropes Mickey. There is Kane's mother cheating on her husband with her daughter's fiancé. In my first essay, I point out Akio is the only named male adult. Likewise, Tokiko is the only named female one. Tokiko occupies a special role held by no other character in the series, because she is a person who doesn't live at Otori Academy. Mikage clings tightly to her memory, so tightly that the person we see through his eyes is a warped imagining of what she truly looks like, unchanged by the years. But she has changed. The person we meet is older, more weary, and more knowledgeable. She's disdainful of Akio, tired of the way Mikage worships a past so different from the one she experienced, and is clearly biding her time to leave for good. She doesn't belong in Otori. She has a future beyond these walls. While Mikage and Utena are the ones most clearly in parallel, when Mikage looks at Utena, the one he sees is Tokiko. Why is that? The audience is meant to see Utena's fate in Mikage's, but Mikage, someone who sees everything as similar to his own past, can only see in Utena the traces of someone he so deeply admired. The traces of someone who he failed in every measurable way, even as he remembers himself as a noble victim. But let's not talk about Mikage's flawed perception anymore. The heart of Tokiko is that, as Utena and Mikage mirror each other, and Anthe reflects herself onto the dead brother, Tokiko is left to mirror the older sibling, Akio. They slept together a long time ago, but that's not really the important part. That's just how Akio is, taking advantage of tragic circumstances. What's important is that Tokiko was the only adult in the series that any of the kids could ever look up to as a sort of positive influence, and none of them ever met her. She interacts with exactly two characters, Akio and Mikage. That's it. She's an adult, after all. Why would she be hanging out around a school? It's not a place she's meant to exist in. It takes a long while for Anthe to become conscious of how much pain she is in. It's like she's waking from a long dream, where pain was a constant. But now she has felt happiness. By Utena's side, she has felt joy and sorrow, shared laughs and pranks, and willingly offered up parts of herself she thought long dead. And now, every day she lives in agony. What was once thought sustainable for eternity, Anthe thinks she can't even stand for a minute. It hurts so much to breathe. It hurts so much to live. It's not me that's hurting you, Anthe, Akio says. It's the world. We both agreed we wouldn't die here, Utena seems to say. We both agreed that the future could be bright. Utena confesses to Anthe that even then she had been grappling with her own confused jealousy over Akio. The memories of being chosen by a prince, all of her childhood thoughts of what her future would look like, even with how uncomfortable she was with the events of the prince that runs through the night, she still resolves it in her heart. The dream of meeting a prince, or becoming a prince, was what gave her the motivation to keep living and happily looking forward to the future after the deaths of her parents. It's not something so easily relinquished. The reoccurring statement within episode 37, the one to revolutionize the world, is that betrayal is inevitable. This is the episode with the shadow girls and the casting couch that I mentioned earlier. True friendship, the girls say, before the one reveals she's already dating the judge. It's the last skit the shadow girls do in the entire show. Toga gives Utena his final piece of advice, the heart of the philosophy that he's used to navigate all the choices he's made within Otori Academy. Only a fool believes in true friendship, he says. Of course, he's standing back to back with Saionji as he says it. Ikuhara says that Utena was made to be a person he aspires to be, someone capable of believing wholeheartedly in such foolish things to the point where you think, why is that so foolish? Isn't the rest of the world foolish for not believing in such a thing? Anthy does betray her. But Utena does not stop believing in their friendship, their love, their future. And, most importantly, she comes to understand that losing the duel and winning the duel, neither of them could have ever achieved what she came here to do. Protect Himemiya. Protect Anthy. Remember, it's not me that's hurting you, Anthy. That's what Akio insists. It's not him. It's the swords. But to him, it's only natural that she would be hurt. Those swords were meant for him, after all. And isn't it her duty to protect him, to sacrifice for him? Isn't it her fault that he grew up like this? She deserves to be hurt by the world in his stead. That's why it's fine for him to lean back and drink as the knives go in. It's this that pushes Utena back to her feet. She doesn't need her dream to have a prince or her dream to be a prince to make her want to live in this world. She has a new dream, a better dream. She has a future that she wants to see so desperately that it's fine if she lets her old dream be utterly destroyed by the hatred of the world. She doesn't need to exist in this world. That's the conclusion that she comes to. The fate that so devastated Mikage sits lightly upon her shoulders, even as its cruel conclusion rolls on. Is being chosen such a wonderful thing? In the end, Anthy doesn't leave when Utena does. Even having been chosen over everything, she still waits to make her own decision. She knows far more of the world than Utena does, knows exactly how harsh and how cruel it will be to venture out into it in search of Utena. I feel like I don't talk enough about Anthy. So, let's fix that. As a character, Anthy was created to be the type of person who carries the dark secrets of Otori always hidden within her heart. But, unlike her brother, she was a mainstay of the cast, so she also had to be someone who could be in lighthearted episodes. The type of person who would cause wide-scale, magical or mundane pranks against her fellow students, either as some karmic justice or just to pass the time. That's also the kind of character she was. Someone who at first glance seems docile, but she is really rather unapproachable and hard to get to know. But Utena doesn't notice any of this. To Utena, she starts out as just a normal fellow classmate, and that eventually evolves into what Utena considers to be a normal kind of friendship. Her voice actor, Fujizaki, put it best. Someone who, while seeming to do nothing, manages to pull the whole world into her orbit. Is that what happened to Utena? Did Utena get pulled into orbit, or was she the one pulled into Utena's superficially brighter world? Well, I don't think that's the right way of looking at it. Rather than either one of them being subsumed by the other, they widened each other's perspectives of the kind of people that could exist in the world. So there was someone who actually believed in that kind of nobility? Anthe could think and compare that to the many other princes who had come and gone, and the one that always stayed. So there was someone who was so graceful and mysterious. Utena could think, and her understanding of the types of women in the world, the ones accused of seduction and the ones held as innocent angels, is widened, if only a little. Without the other, how would they realize what a world beyond the birdcage, beyond the coffin, beyond the graveyard ever existed? What matters is not that Utena couldn't manage to grasp Anthe's hand, but that Anthe realized she so desperately wanted to grasp it, that would be alright to let the light seep into her world. Or, you could say, what matters is that Utena wanted to reach out so badly that she crawled past the end of the world. That she pleaded, begged, wept, bled. It's her tears that opened the door called revolution, after all. Her agony. But despite her agony, she has refused to return to despair. That fated world, the loss of innocence that came with death, all of that, though agonizing, has not dragged her back into despair. She doesn't want to die. Not here. Not now. She so desperately wants to live through this agony. She wants to meet Anthe again. The future is so close. The world is wider than either of them can imagine. There's nothing that makes agony worth it. There's no struggle that will turn to an equivalent success. Nothing that can justify some existences above others. There's just a desire to exist, to live in a world where happiness is possible. I think that's better than only being able to see the end of the world. Hey guys, I'm Zar and this is my channel for talking about anime, animation, and other storytelling devices. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See ya!